Why is your TV a Samsung?
Why wouldn't it be a Samsung?
I desperately need to take the improv class. Gosh, I'm terrible. I'm so
Josh is
bad.
like, why don't we buy this home? Because we don't want to buy it. Okay, then. Salesmanship 101 with Josh Cooper.
I won't make you buy. All right. Well, welcome to another episode of How Stupid People Succeed. I'm Josh. This guy's Jeremy, and these are some pretty cool graphics now. Don't you think so?
Yeah. And a really cool.
And they just popped up.
I promise this is Monster, not some Hawaiian fruity drink.
It is a cocktail of monsters.
A cocktail of monsters.
Yes.
True. It is a drink of monsters.
Sugar free.
Yes.
What colors?
Orange and blue, and it probably makes the best flavor monster of all time.
You think so? Yeah. Does it taste like green?
I don't know what green tastes like.
Victory.
It does
World
taste like
domination.
Not world domination, but it just tastes like victory.
Yeah. Well, thanks for joining us for another episode, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
This is a podcast of how two stupid people, that's Jeremy and I, we find a way somehow to figure things out in life occasionally.
Now, as we're recording this, DeWine's getting ready to come out with an announcement, so we may this podcast may get shut off halfway through. DeWine's going to put podcast in quarantine, I heard. So
Should we do podcasts with masks?
yes, we should, because that would be the most ridiculous thing of all time.
So would we be considered? But I mean,
We could be breaking the law by the time this airs. This could be.
but like
breaking
we
the law.
technically haven't social distanced though. You and I.
We haven't.
Well, I mean,
yeah, we have.
I mean, not in the last.
I mean,
2 months.
how close do you have to remain to somebody? I mean, there's
6
only
feet. It's everywhere. It's
this
6
is
feet.
really close to 6 feet. Well, our knees aren't contagious, Josh. Nowhere's the CDC like them knees better. It's air. It's the breathing. That's how you catch viruses. It's not through knee contact. That knee on knee contact's freaking deadly.
Do they talk about that in high schools now?
Yeah, they do.
Yeah. So we're talking about today, big guy.
Talking about the joy is worth the work. So I was at the park the other day and I was watching my kids, and it was hot. It was one of those super hot days, super sunny days. I was watching my kids play on this giant playground area, one of the few that were open. And they were social distancing from all the other kids, but they were playing on it. And they were just going ham. I mean, crawling up and down everything, climbing up and down everything, going down the slide. And they were just having the time of their life. And they had that little kid just beet red, sweaty, going 100% at everything they're doing. And I was watching my little 4-year-old son climb up this giant kind of like rock wall / ladder thing they had set up to get to the top of this play set, run all the way across the play set and go down this one slide. I watched him do it like 5 times in a row. And I had the thought of how much work is he putting in for how much fun? And then I thought about our lives as adults.
Yes.
And I thought about too often we let the work of life rob us from the fun of life, because at no point did he go down the slide, stand up from the slide and go, oh man, I got to crawl back up there again. It was all part of the experience.
Yes.
And so when we talk about, being successful in life, I think a big part of that is understanding how do we take our circumstances in life or our challenges in life or the obstacles that we have to crawl over or around to enjoy life. So in that kind of vein, in that kind of thought, what's something in your life that you feel like, man, I put a lot more work into this than I actually get fun out of. But to me, it doesn't necessarily feel like work because the work is worth it.
That's a very complicated question. I mean, for me, if you're fine, I mean, like let's say work, for instance, right? Mm-hmm. It's all a part of the journey. So I'll use real estate, for example, right? So obviously you do all this work to get to the end of the day where the client gets to buy the house, right? And which eventually ends in a sale for me, right? So I make money, my broker makes money, the people get a house, everyone's happy, right? But if you can't enjoy the journey, and Anchor's an analogy, the whole like journeying through the playground to get to that slide, to go down the slide, if you can't enjoy the whole activity of going through that thing, like that's when you turn around and you're like, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
So I'm sure at some point during the day, Anchor was doing that time after time after time after time. Then all of a sudden he's just like, okay, I'm done.
No. No, we had to drag him off of it. And I think 10 minutes later, he's in the truck snoring asleep. Yeah. Like that's his motor. Yeah. But to me, to watch him do it, it's like, man, so the other thought that I had kind of in the moment is you think about a big pool with a big high dive, right? And so for every little kid, most of us remember that first time we worked up the nerves to crawl all the way up the ladder or all the way up the stairs to get to that high dive and jump off of it. And man, for most of us, it took us one time jumping off that high dive and we're like, I'm doing that again. And never again did we have those same fears or those same concerns. But yet we would get out, stand in line, crawl all the way up there, go out to the edge and jump for a couple seconds of a thrill. And I thought about how often kids do that. Right? Riding your bike, for example, kids, or my daughter now, she's in complete bike mode. So her big thing is, I just want to get on my bike and go. And that's all work, but there's fun in it for her. Mm-hmm. So for me, it's like, man, I'm trying to learn a lesson from my kids in the sense of don't let the privilege of work. Maybe that's a good way to think about it. Don't let the privilege of work rob the joy you're having all the way through the journey. Because everybody can be happy when, that big deal comes through, that big check hits, or that new promotion hits, or that big life goal hits. But it's like the people that I really see crushing, or the people that I really look up to, they seem to just always be thriving in a moment. They never really seem to be overly frustrated by circumstances. And that's something, to be honest, like I'm not particularly good at. Mm-hmm. If there's one thing I can be great at, I can be great at getting frustrated in the circumstance because I try to plan so much. So when something goes wrong, it's like, rah, like I should have planned past this, or I should have saw that coming, or I should have figured it out. And obviously for me, that disrupts everybody around me. It disrupts the team I'm on. It disrupts my friendships. It disrupts my family. So if I come home and I'm frustrated by, the work I have to do, but it's like nobody forced me to do this work. I chose to be a husband, a dad, a homeowner. I chose all these different things. So if I chose that, let me try to find the peace and the joy in doing the work and enjoying the entire journey instead of trying to parse out, oh, this is work and this is fun.
Yeah. Well, I think it is part of the journey. It's part of the whole package. It's part, it's why we signed up to be dads, right? Mm-hmm. Like not every moment is a shining moment of being a father. Mm-hmm. Just this week, this is the most mad I've ever been at Rafe, ever. Like deliberately disobeying me, right? Laughing about it. Like, oh my gosh. Like I love him so much, but yet,
for a dad, there's something like Brittany. So Brittany and I just had an experience. Not to cut you off because we're going to get back to that, but to help you feel maybe more comfortable in sharing what you're about to share. Brittany and I just had an experience with Anchor this past week where it was that father-son deal where it's like Sophia and I, we have a much different understanding. We have a much different relationship. She won't really challenge me. There's not that like buck the system. There's not that like push the edge. But with Anchor, it's like this weird kind of like, who's the alpha dog? You get what I'm saying? Like it's weird to see it in a little boy, but it's like he did something this other day that was just completely like uncalled for. And Brittany had to and it really bothered Brittany and me being dad and him being son and kind of seeing that interaction. But after the fact, she and I sat down, the kids are in bed and we kind of talked about it. I just kind of explained to Brittany, like, Brittany, there's going to be some things between Anchor and I that you just have to exit. And thankfully, she's incredible and she got that. She understood that. But to your point, as a dad, there's probably not very many things that go through you and cause a burst of anger like, oh, my son's trying to challenge me now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
So how'd that work out?
Well, I had just got home, I had just got home, long day at work, and obviously everybody hits me with their issues, kind of like when I walk in the door, it's like, Rafe was doing this, Claire was doing this, we have all this just stuff of life that's going on. And then, so I go upstairs and I talk to him and sure enough, he's doing exactly what he knew he wasn't supposed to be doing. And so I helped him alleviate that situation. And then I go turn on the shower, and then I come back out to my bedroom, and then he is laying in my bed, watching. So he was watching YouTube. So he was watching, basically gaming on YouTube.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I had deleted the app before I went to take the shower.
Yeah.
I come back out less than 60 seconds later. He had re-downloaded the app and he's watching it again.
Oh.
I lost my mind.
Yeah.
But why I say that is because the whole, that's not necessarily the things we signed up to want to do.
Right.
Is, the last thing I want to do is I don't want to discipline my kid, because that's not fun. Mm-hmm. It's not fun for me. It's not fun for him.
Right.
But it's a part of the whole experience of being a dad. We don't want to be their best friend, but we want to be their dad.
Yeah.
We want to set that good example. We want to explain things to them and doing all that stuff. And it's just like, so you go from just that, the work of being a dad, if we can't, at least in hindsight, look back and enjoy the process of what it's kind of shaped us, mold us to be, to, from, him 8 years ago being born to where he's at now, being proud of what he is right now, even though I want to strangle him.
Yeah.
And, so like enjoying that process along the way. So one thing that I've always tried to do, ever since we've had kids really, is just enjoy the moment, because everyone always says, like, enjoy your kids, because it's not going to last long.
It goes fast.
And it's so true. Especially now when you have three of them, they're all kind of getting, mixed together. They're all going through their different phases. But, you look back at, Rafe, you look back pictures of him 4 years ago and just like
that long curly hair.
Oh my gosh, it's just crazy.
Chubby as can be.
And, you watch some of the videos and you're just like, like that's exactly why I signed up for that.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily for the discipline aspect of him, but it's it's for the little moments that you'll always remember and you can always reflect on.
Yeah. So trying to enjoy the moment, that's obviously a lot easier said than done. So how do you try to readjust or ratchet your focus when you realize, oh snap, I'm just in that that work focus intense mode? How do I get back to let me enjoy the moment, because these days are short and precious?
I mean, as it relates to family or work
in general, any way you want to take that.
I try to compartmentalize the best I can. A man will tell you that I'm not great at it. Of course, you can tell everyone that I'm not great at it.
He's not great at it. No,
but it's continually evolving, right? It's, like when I'm home, I try to be home, even though, I get calls from here and there, or just before we started the podcast, I got 2 phone calls before we started the podcast. So, it's like, I'm praying for a lot of grace with the people in my life that they understand. But also I don't want to abuse that either.
Yeah.
And I don't want to, I don't want to take advantage of that, so I want to be present and I want to be mindful of that. And so, taking those moments and which is very difficult for me to kind of set my phone aside, and be present. But it's always something I'm working on.
So if somebody, maybe a good question to end on, if somebody realizes they're lost in their frustration, they're lost in the work, they're lost in kind of the responsibility of their own life and just like the management of it and the to-do list of it, and what they have to get done, how would you help them understand, here's how you can kind of rotate positions, change positions, do a 180 and actually find some peace and some joy and some satisfaction out of what you're doing?
Well, we all kind of go through seasons in our lives where we're loving what we're doing, right? And none of it seems like work. So right now in my life, real estate, right? Like none of it seems like work to me, even though there's tedious things about it. The whole process I absolutely love, right? But, if you look back in the past, there were things, like when I was working at at the airport, when I was in college, when I was, a server, when I was working at the golf course, like all these different things, they all kind of run their course and they become a time where it's just like, don't get me wrong. I mean, we're always going to have frustrations. I have frustrations now in real estate, but when these frustrations become ongoing and they will not go away,
right,
that's a time you need to evaluate, okay, why am I doing this? Why am I here? And if you can find that groove where you're loving what you're doing and you can enjoy the entire process, that's where I want to stay. So right now in real estate, I want to figure out a way to continue loving what I'm doing and making it better for everyone around me. So, because when, the old adage is, when mom ain't happy, no one's happy.
Yeah.
It's true for both parents. Right. And, but finding that groove, is critically important. So like I would say, if you're in that groove or you're not in that groove, kind of take some time to self-reflect, meditate, pray, kind of figure out what you're doing, where, what your 5-year plan is. We talk about goals, at the beginning of the year, we talked about goals. Goals are something we always need to reevaluate and we always need to reassess.
Yeah. And I think in thinking about, or going back to the mental image of Anchor on a play set, at some point, being 4 years old, he's going to outgrow the size of that play set.
Exactly.
And the next size of a play set really only requires more work to get the enjoyment. And so there's a lot of things in our life that I think a little mental exercise that at least I try to play out is, or I'll use often, wave your magic wand. So if you can wave your magic wand, what would be different? What would change? What would you want? And for a lot of people, when they wave the magic wand, it's not necessarily like work would go away. Most people aren't like, oh, I want to wave the magic wand. I just want to sit on the beach, sip pina coladas, and just hang out. While most people say, like, we joke about, oh yeah, that's great. Or, when we're on vacation or something. But like for me, I know I'm like this. After about 4 or 5 days of that, I'm like, okay, now let me go do something. I want to accomplish something. Like, I don't want to just sit around. So for people out there that get stuck in that rut, wave your magic wand, play out your life, say, here's what I want. And then be bold enough to maybe take some really hard action, some really hard looks at yourself and understand, how do I shift this so I'm enjoying it? For some people, it's maybe like, we've done this, so I'm not, but for some people, maybe it's a really hard conversation with your spouse and going, hey, I really need to change my profession, or, hey, I really need to change, this part of my life, and talk about that and get that support from them, because you and I both will attest to, it's way better to take a shot or take a risk or change something up with your family support than without your family support.
For sure.
I.e., like, you with real estate versus you buying new golf clubs. There's two, which that's a different podcast.
Yes.
But anyway.
Yes.
But so, it's a constant evolution, because there are times where, for me, just even that simple reminder of like, oh, wait a minute, I want to be here. Why am I letting negative emotion, through the door?
Yeah.
I'm going to shut the door on that right now. And other times it's, oh, well, even in the best case scenario, I want this to be different. Now let me figure out how to change it. Like, I don't like this slide anyway.
Well, your mind's pretty powerful, super powerful. So, if you're in a negative space, if you can have the ability to kind of switch that off and put that thought aside and say, okay, I'm going to be here. I'm going to, kind of, force through it almost. But you're right. It's critically important. Yeah. We should do a whole podcast on that.
Let's do it. We'll come back to it.
Yeah.
Part 2.
There's a lot of things we have to come back to.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I know. We're going to have to go back through like all the other things, figure out what to come back to next.
Yeah. Cool. You got anything else?
No, I'm Gucci.